In this video, I thought we'd have some fun with text so that when we put text on our pages, it looks absolutely amazing. Right at the top is the most simple version of text. This is one of my favorite things to do when I'm making posters. Let's see how we've done this. Very simply, I clicked on the T, which is for text, clicked onto the screen somewhere and just typed in the word outline. Now the font isn't really important that I use, but in this case I used Arial Black, which is kind of near the top. Once I find it there, and then very simply, to make text stand out, of course black and white is good, but in this case I chose a light blue, which kind of looks cool when you look at it. But when we put a stroke or an outline, it makes the text look stronger. So in this case I chose an outline of about 3 or 4, I think I did 3. And instead of choosing black, I chose a blue that was similar to the blue inside. So the result is a really cool looking text which kind of stands out from the page. Now number 2, this one over here is one of my favorite things to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out of the way and we're going to make some text curve around a circle. So how do we do that? First things first, let's go and grab a circle and let's draw it on the page there like that. Now we don't really need a fill, so I'm going to take the fill away. And the stroke isn't important because that will disappear in a second as well. Let me just zoom in here for a second. I'm going to go to the text tool here, but now I'm going to click and I'm going to keep it clicked. And what I want to choose is type on a path. You can see that the text tool has now changed to this funny curvy line. And I'm going to go onto my path, that's my circle, and I'm going to click there. You can see already it's thrown in a lorem ipsum, which I don't need. So I'm just going to type in the letters C-U-R-V-Y like that. And I think for the font, I want to change it to this really kind of cool font that I've got. Let me just select that and do that again. And I think it was that one there. Yeah, that's the one. Now you can see that the word is kind of not in the place I want it to be, and it's kind of looking a bit funny. So in this case, what I want to do is click on the black arrow. And what I'll do is just again zoom in a little bit, and you can see that there's a funny line over there. And if I click and drag, I can actually control where my word is. It's a little bit fiddly, so I'm just going to take my time here a little bit. Let me just undo what I just did there and do that again. I'm just going to move it just slightly there like that. I kind of want it there like that. I can now select my text. I can change its color to what I want it to be, change the stroke to what I want it to be, which is a dark green, and I'm going to make that a 3 as well. Click on the black arrow and you can see I've got some curvy text. And that's one of my favorite things to do. Third is this disco sign over here. I'm going to just move that out of the way. This one's actually really easy to do. So what I'm going to do here is very simply click on the text tool and type in the word disco. In this case, the font I used is Impact, which is a really cool font, like that. And what I did was choose a fill that was a really light color, so a yellow or a very light green. You then very simply copy and paste, move that a little bit there, and go to the next darker color. I'm going to choose this green because it's strong. Again, I'm going to copy and paste, move that a little bit over there, choose the next darker color, copy and paste like this, choose another darker color like there. And in this case, I'm going to stick with 4 because you can have 10, you can have 20, but in this case, I only need 4. Let me zoom in a little bit more. And what I'm going to do just with my eyes, I'm going to move each one of those until it's quite close to the one underneath, like this. Now, if you take your time, you can make sure that each word or each color is the same distance from the last one. But in this case, you can see that the effect is really cool. Now, that top one, to make it stand out a bit more, you should click on it, go to the stroke, and what I like to do is put lighter colors for the stroke when I'm doing some effect like this. So you could use a white, or you could even use a yellow to kind of make it stand out more. My own personal preference is a white because it kind of looks cool, and you can experiment by making it fatter or thinner and see what happens there. And that's how you make the disco sign. But there is one problem with the disco sign. Let's say I wanted to move that disco sign around my page. What would end up happening is I'd end up having to move all the layers one by one. And that's going to get really annoying really quickly. So in this case, what I'm going to do is a little trick. I'm going to click on the black arrow and I'm going to select all the words like this. Now, Illustrator has a really cool feature, so you don't have to actually draw around everything that you want to select. In this case, you simply have to touch all the things that you want to select, and Illustrator will select them all for you. And then what I want to do is Object and Group. That's Control G or Command G if you're on a Mac. And what that does is it groups it all together so that when I move it, it moves as one. And that's really useful because now I can move things around the screen without worrying that they're going to break apart. Now the fourth one I did, which was the amazing, is one of my favorite tricks to do in Illustrator. I'm going to move that out of the way. And what I'm going to do is, again, go to the text tool, click there and type in the word amazing. I'm going to click on the black arrow, and this time I'm going to use a Franklin Gothic Heavy font. It's a really nice font. And in this case, I'm going to go directly to red for the fill. For the stroke, I'm going to go to red. And now I'm going to make the stroke really quite fat. I'm going to go to about 16, 17 or 18. Let's go to 16. That's a really strong word. Now don't worry if you can't read it because it's actually the background of the whole thing. I'm going to copy and paste that. I'm going to copy and paste that like there. Now I'm going to change the fill to orange and the stroke to the same orange. And in this case, rather than having it 16, I'm going to take it down to about 8. I'm going to move that to the middle. Illustrator will tell me when it's in the middle. So you can see I've got my red and I've got my orange. Now what I'm going to do is copy and paste that again. This time I'm going to make the fill yellow. And I'm actually going to take the stroke away by clicking on stroke and doing that red sign there which says none. So I'm going to take it away. And when I move that into the middle, you can see that I have my really strong text that says amazing. Those colors really work. And I really love having this as titles or as big words on posters. Of course, just like we did for the disco, let's select all three of those. And we'll go to Object and Group. And now what happens is when I move the amazing, it moves as one object rather than three different ones. And finally, let's go to the last one, which is the amazinger. This is my all-time favorite. I try not to use it on every single thing I do because that would be boring. But once in a while, when I want the maximum impact, I put this on a poster. Let's see how we did this one. Let's move that out of the way for a second. Again, let's go to our text tool, click there, write the word amazinger, and put in our exclamation marks. You can see it's quite big. So let's just resize that so that it fits on the page about there. That would be perfect. Now for the font for this one, I went back to the Changa Extra Bold, which is kind of cool. And then what I did was, again, exactly like I did previously for Amazing, I simply went and chose a red fill. For the stroke, I chose the same red. And I think I made that about 16 or 17. Let's take that to 18 this time around. I then very quickly copy and paste it. I'm going to move the fill to an orange, the stroke to the same orange. And in this case, I'm going to make the fill about 8, like so. Move that into the center. That's going to be good. And then copy and paste that. Again, make the fill yellow. Take the stroke away because we don't need it now. And I'm going to move that into the center there. So basically, it's an exact copy of the Amazing. Now to add that really cool shadow, we're going to have to just zoom in a little bit so that you can see what's happening. I'm going to move the yellow out of the way for a second and click on the orange. I'm going to go to Effect, Stylize, and go to a drop shadow. A little window is going to come up here like this, and I'm going to click on this little preview so that I can see what the shadow looks like before I have to press OK. And you can see I've messed around with the settings, and I'll just mess these up so that you can see what happens. So for example, when you open it, your shadow might look something like this, which is kind of cool, but I wanted the shadow much closer, so I experimented with these settings until I was happy with what I saw. The blur I made a lot smaller, so I think I put it on a 2, and I just moved the shadow until it was exactly where I wanted it, and that's kind of where I wanted it, and I press OK to that. Then I'm going to move the yellow back into place, go back to Effect, go back to Stylize and Drop Shadow, and luckily my settings are still there that I did just 5 seconds ago. So if I preview that, you can see that the orange has a shadow underneath it and the yellow has a shadow underneath it. Press OK, zoom out a little bit, and let's just click outside, and you can see that really does look amazing. Again, I'm going to select all 3 of those. I'm going to go to Object and Group, and in that way I can move this around as well. I think if you're brave, you might try some of these in your own style. So different colors, different styles of shadows, different types of curves, and really mix and match until you find something that looks spectacular.